Yeah, guys, I know. I know that crapping on Concord is easy, it's low-hanging fruit, doesn't require much effort. I get it. But it's also important that we remember just how bad this game is and exactly why it failed. And again, Concord was the game from Firewalk Studios, a studio that Sony acquired in 2023 and shut down in 2024. Due to the failure of this game, Concord didn't even make it 2 weeks before they announced that they were shutting the entire game down. So again, despite this epic failure, PlayStation and Sony doubled down on their live service plans, which to me is mind-blowing given that they had announced 12 live service titles and had shut 8 of them down by 2025. The years that they were supposed to be released, they were just instead shut down and scrapped entirely. Things like God of War Online, Last of Us Online, and the list goes on and on. So despite this, their most well-known, I would say, live service title, at least one of the most well-known ones, Destiny 2, has not been faring well. Particularly because of this Edge of Fate expansion, and as somebody who only played Destiny 2 years ago, I haven't even touched it in a couple of years, I can't speak to why this expansion was so poorly received. But what it has partially caused is Sony to essentially strip Bungie of some of this independence that it was promised when they first acquired Bungie back in 2022. Now, they purchased Bungie for $3.6 billion with the intention of letting Bungie operate on its own, essentially, but of course giving Sony exclusivity and all that. That's why you buy these studios, of course. But again, a purchase that might have been in vain due to the failure after failure that Bungie seems to be churning out, which brings us to Marathon. Marathon, of course, this game that had its closed beta a few months ago. Sorry, closed alpha. It didn't even have a beta yet. And it got rightly kicked in the teeth by another game, Arc Raiders, that released its closed alpha a week later. Now, when you look at the numbers for Marathon, it seemed to be doing well when it first had its closed alpha. The first day, it hit 6,900 players. And the thing that's important to remember is these were invite-only players. You had to get on a list, request to be, get access to the alpha, and not everybody got in. So 6,900 players is not that bad. The problem was, after a couple of days, it dropped by a couple thousand players down to where it was less than 2,000 players 5 days later. So again, clearly nobody had any interest in playing this game past a couple of days. Now, the common complaints we saw were it just doesn't have any stakes, it doesn't feel like an extraction shooter, it doesn't really feel that good. There are games that do movement better, games that do better with the weapons. The art style is kind of bland. Then, of course, a couple weeks after that, we saw the art theft controversy, where essentially Bungie was caught stealing the art for Marathon from a lesser-known artist online who went by Anti-Real. And of course, the art director for the game had to come out on a Twitch stream and do this humiliating apology. Looked like he had a gun to his head the entire time, metaphorically, of course, because the poor man looked like his life had just ended. This was so embarrassing. I can't believe at this point they didn't just scrap the entire game. But of course, the game has recently been delayed over and over and over. Now it's delayed to sometime next year, and that's not even a confirmed date at this point. But to make matters worse, recently we saw the CEO of Bungie, Pete Parsons, step down after 20 years with the company. This goes all the way back to when Bungie was still making Halo games for what they were at the time. So once again, one more sign of things to come for Bungie and for Sony. Not good news for them. Now, ironically, this comes a few months after the founder of the studio, Haven Studios, that's making Fair Games, stepped down. And this is, of course, another live service title coming from Sony that has not been received well either. But to make matters worse for Bungie and for Marathon is now they are having another closed playtest where they essentially are going to have to bribe players to come back and give it a try. Yes, I'm not even kidding. There's a $500 reward on the line for these players. Now, essentially what they're looking to do, and I'll read it off this article here from the Game Post, it says that Bungie has started inviting select players to a month-long marathon user research study starting next month. Bungie's extraction shooter Marathon is still in active development and has been running regular playtests. After mixed to negative early feedback and the big art theft controversy, Bungie officially delayed the game past its original September 2025 launch date. In the months since, the studio has quietly held monthly invite-only playtests to gather tighter, more regular feedback. And this is something that I've seen them post about, where they essentially have, yes, been giving invites to players that have already been part of their previous playtests and not opening them up to any new players, it would seem. So it goes on to say Sony has also weighed in on the timing, saying it expects Marathon to arrive within its FY 2025 window by March 31st, 2026, while stressing that this is not a firm commitment. So again, saying by March 31st doesn't mean that the game will actually release by then. Now it looks like Bungie is getting ready for its longest round of playtesting for Marathon yet, 30 days of consecutive playtest sessions with daily check-ins and a cash equivalent thank you at the end for those who complete it. Yesterday, select players received a new email from Bungie titled Marathon 30-Day User Research Study. You're invited. The invite outlines a fully remote playtest that runs for 30 consecutive days from September 8th through October 7th, including weekends. Participants are required to play for at least 1 hour per day during the scheduled windows, 3 to 7 p.m. Pacific time on weekdays and 2 to 8 p.m. Pacific time on weekends. The message also notes that recipients were contacted because they previously expressed interest in future research opportunities. In addition to gameplay, Bungie will also be collecting feedback through a short daily survey and a weekly survey. As a thank you, players who complete the entire 30-day study will receive a $500 gift card of their choice. If you only finish part of the study, you will only receive a portion of the reward based on the number of days that you have completed. The email also makes clear this month-long study is separate from the monthly closed playtest 3 running September 3rd to the 5th. As with previous tests, the invitation reiterates NDA rules. Check out the email below, and basically just reiterates everything that we just talked about. The crazy part about that is recently we saw the actual CEO of Sony come out and say that they want to fail early and to fail cheaply in terms of their live service games. But what I find even more interesting about this take is if you go further down in this article here from Tweaktown, it talks about how they have their testing phases, right? So it says Sony management has acknowledged the live games roadmap has many issues, and internally PlayStation has initiated rigorous testing phases for these games. These had originally been conducted by Bungie, which led to the delay and ultimate cancellation of The Last of Us live game, and potentially even the delay of Bungie's own game Marathon, yet it remains unclear if this testing is still conducted primarily by Bungie. While Sony once put high importance on populating its live games catalog and releasing a dozen titles onto the market, Holst now that's again the CEO, now says that the amount of games is no longer of high value. The number of live games is not so important. What is important to me is having a diverse set of player experiences and a set of communities, he said, likely pointing to Helldivers 2's player base, which still remains strong a year after release. In regard to Concord's failure, which led to a very costly write-down for Sony, Holst reiterates that PlayStation has an experienced team of testers who scrutinize every aspect of these new live games. This could add another layer of testing on top of the kind that's already been done for Sony's marquee single-player games, such as Insomniac's new Wolverine game, which is going to be another disaster. But I find funny this line here where he says that Sony has an experienced team of testers who scrutinize every aspect of these new live games, and yet they're having to pay players who are already going to playtest this game anyways $500 for a 30-day playtest. Now, essentially what this means is that these people, if they actually do the full 30 hours, and it's a minimum of an hour per day, let's say they play 2 hours a day, they're getting paid less than $17 per hour, and in some cases far less than that if they play multiple hours per day, which is less than the average salary for an actual game tester is getting paid. So while he talks about how they have their own dedicated set of playtesters, this to me seems like just like we've seen, with early access games or betas where they try to treat people like, okay, well, you purchased our game, now we're going to use you as a playtester, even though you've already given us your money and you're expecting a working title. This feels very much the same way, where they're going to be using these people in these playtests as essentially guinea pigs to see what's wrong with the game or how to fix it, and using them as cheap labor, if you will. Now, again, if somebody wants to give their time and get $500 out of the deal, there are worse things you could do with your time, absolutely. You're still playing a video game. But it is still being treated more as a job than anything else, and the fact that they're going to be giving these people less than industry, standard when it comes to the amount of money they're paying them is just like another slap in the face, in my opinion. It says the last bit of info from Holst is a very interesting quote that delves into the core of Sony's current entertainment-first business strategy. Sony doesn't just want to create IPs for the games market, it wants these new intellectual properties to build a following, turn into a franchise, sell copies, make money via microtransactions, and then after that hopefully get adapted into a TV show and or a movie via the company's own internal PlayStation Productions and Sony Pictures divisions. The goal is synergy, but that doesn't come easy or often. He says, we take a very intentional approach to IP creation and understanding how a new concept can turn into an iconic franchise for PlayStation that can then again become a franchise for people beyond gaming. And unfortunately, we're seeing that now way more these days with the amount of movies being made off of video games. Some of them turned out okay, like the Mario and Sonic movies, but a lot of other ones seem like a disaster waiting to happen. Either way, guys, share your thoughts down below. What do you think about this entire playtest, this paid playtest situation? Again, as we're talking about playtesting in the video game industry, I understand that there's people who get paid to playtest games year round. This to me, though, seems like one more attempt to just get people to even interested in playing their game beyond just, the standard open and closed betas that we've seen in the past. So again, share your thoughts down below and I will catch you guys on the next one. All right, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have 2 channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.